Welcome back. This is episode 245 of the Veterinary Business video show. In this episode, we'll hear how focusing on staff training and practice workflow can convert more phone shoppers into active clients, and we'll hear from a professor of philosophy sharing his experience of a mid-career crisis. We'll learn why excellence is key in the next 5 minutes. We'll hear what to do when your get up and go has got up and gone, and I'll offer you my quick business tip. For this episode, I'm John Sheridan, and this is the video show from Veterinary Business. Why do you think it is that 7 out of 10 veterinary practices are not generating what we might describe as a healthy level of profit? As a result, many are unable to offer their team members a salary which compares favourably with that offered by the providers of other professional services. They deliver a poor return on investment, and their owners are frequently stressed, overworked, and underpaid. Is it because there's too much competition? No. Is it because their fees are too high and too many animal owners are unable to afford veterinary services? Certainly not. Is it because too many young graduates lack confidence, are risk averse, and don't have the resilience for a career in practice? Certainly not. Of course, all these and many other issues are having some impact, but the reality is that too many veterinary practices are poorly run as businesses, largely for historical reasons, during which our profession has regarded the idea of a veterinary practice being a commercial enterprise as somehow distasteful. Leslie Boudreau is a practice manager of a 7-vet small animal and exotic practice in the United States. Leslie clearly believes that better medicine depends on better business, and in this clip she explains how her hospital focused on staff training and practice workflow to convert more phone shoppers into active clients.
So when you go to plan a marketing campaign and you're going to invest the dollars and the energy and a lot of effort into a marketing campaign, the one thing that you really want to make sure that you're thinking about is the end result of that marketing campaign is to drive people to your business. And generally it's through a website, it's through them making a phone call, some sort of contact with you. And if you really don't think about the end result and how you're going to actually capture and convert that client through your marketing campaign to become a customer or a client or buy your service, then you're really missing the point. You're spending a lot of precious marketing dollars and you're not going to get the results. So one of the ways that I took a big marketing campaign that we were going to do with a redesign of our website and a marketing campaign that we were really trying to increase our new client calls. So we had to really look at the bottom line and who was answering those phone calls. So we developed a staff training program that was really kind of 5-fold. So first we started with really training the customer service representatives into what the goal of the call was. So everyone wants to be friendly on the phone. They want to be able to, give information and provide good customer service, but they really weren't looking at the fact that they really needed to sell the service and sell the practice and generate that lead into an actual converted client. So by choosing my 4 top CSRs, we were able to kind of plan that we were going to intensively train them into what the purpose was, and we developed some tools for them. So we started with scripting, and we basically laid out a script of the different type of phone calls that they might receive and how those scripts needed to go and end. And basically it was to take friendly control of the conversation and allow the client to ask questions, but to make sure that the end result was converting them to a customer. And we started by looking at our metrics, and our metrics were really actually poor once we looked at it. So we weren't really realizing a very good call conversion. We started at about approximately 10 to 15% of clients that called in that were fairly good leads. Actually, only 15% of them actually came into the practice. So if we were going to spend this amount of money, we really needed to up that. And we set a goal of 40% in 6 months. So we wanted to convert 4 out of our 10 calls into an actual client. So starting with the training, starting with choosing the appropriate staff, we then also developed a phone room. So we knew that these calls needed to be taken away from the front desk. They needed to be in an area where the customer service reps could really practice their scripting in a quiet location where they could just fully concentrate on that call. So developing the phone room with them on headsets allowed them to have a private space, to have that script in front of them and really be able to take control of the call. So doing the phone room gave us a good location, but then we also had to train the rest of the staff to route the calls to them. So when a client call came in that they identified was a potential customer or a phone shopper, they would then route those calls directly to the phone room. Make sure that those calls went to the person who was best able to handle those calls. So the phone room, the training, and then really looking at our results. And the way to look at our results was to track it. So we had to develop a tracking method to track every phone call coming into the practice and really being able to get a handle on when the calls were coming, what type of calls, and then was our marketing hitting the target. So after doing all of that, we were able to actually within 4 months hit our target and in 6 months exceed our target. Really choose that ability of the staff to convert the call, because ultimately their goal had to change from being friendly and providing customer service to making the appointment, getting the client in the door, using good customer service.
Now let's see who's on the video show Soapbox. Much debate in our profession during the most recent few years has been about the pressures on recent graduates and their reported disappointment in a career in practice after years of hard work, learning, planning, and preparing to be a vet. Career crises, however, aren't confined to youngsters, and there's a good deal of evidence that a crisis in mid-career may be even more common. Here's a clip in which Kieran Setia, a professor of philosophy, shares his own experience.
Midlife, mid-career is the hardest phase for the majority of people. There are many midlife crises. The sense of missing out. There are other lives you could have lived, careers you could have had and you didn't take, and I wish I could change the past. Another is the sense of it's just a grind. You're constantly driving from project to project to project, and they seem worthwhile, but there's a kind of hollowness or emptiness in it. At bottom, these are problems about how to live and how to live a good life. And those are the kinds of problems philosophers address, and that's why I think philosophy can really be helpful at this stage of life. In general, when you make decisions, it's pretty rare for the values that you're comparing to be what philosophers call commensurable. If I ask you, do you want $50 or $100, you take the $100, no regrets. But if I ask you, do you want to go to a baseball game or go to a concert, even if you're sure which one it is that you want to do, there's still a kind of small-scale loss because you miss out on something different. Values are plural. There are many different valuable things, and you're able to appreciate them. One kind of mid-career crisis is the experience of that sort of writ large. So a friend of mine, she had wanted to be a musician for a long time. She had a kind of promising start to her career, and then she didn't want to take the risk and ended up becoming a lawyer, and she's now a corporate lawyer, and her life is pretty good, but she looks back at this earlier time and thinks, you know, maybe that was a mistake. I think I should have stuck with music. But if she had stuck with music, she would never have met her husband, she would never have had the child she now has. And so one way she can sort of reframe that decision, not denying that it was maybe a mistake or maybe she should have chosen differently at the time, is to think about the fact that these attachments to her husband and her child wouldn't have been possible without it, and that they mitigate and sort of counteract the regret she would otherwise feel. And those kinds of attachments, the particular ways in which our life is going, the sort of texture of our lives, are quite generally a counterweight to regret. Building your life and your work too much around getting this done, getting the next thing done, it's a habit that can make you successful, but it can also make you feel a kind of hollowness in what you're doing. I think there are distinctions that I find really useful, and really the one that for me hit closest to home is a distinction between what I call telic and atelic activities. So the idea of a telic activity comes from the Greek word telos, end or goal, is the idea of an activity that has a kind of completable finite ending. So it might be writing a report, things that you engage in and can complete. Even though they can be very valuable, telic activities, projects like that, have a kind of inherent problem. Satisfaction in them is sort of always in the future or in the past. The goal is always not yet achieved, and yet the moment you achieve it, well, that's done. You move on to the next thing. And there's a certain hollowness or emptiness to the present. What's important to recognize is that not all activities are like that. So atelic activities are ones that don't have that kind of temporal structure. So it might be that, as well as walking home, there's just walking, going for a stroll with no particular destination. Or at work, as well as writing this particular report, there's just building the company. As well as resolving this particular conflict between colleagues, there's the project of sort of maintaining a healthy and supportive atmosphere at work. And those atelic activities, because they don't have a kind of completable point at which they aim, at which they're done, there's no more to do, don't generate this sense that it's completed and there's no more. Shifting your focus to a more atelic orientation where you're more invested in the ongoing process of what you're doing is a way to address that kind of emptiness or hollowness that can afflict us around mid-career.
Now for a tip from the top in the business world of veterinary practice. Tom Peter, joint author of In Search of Excellence, described as possibly the greatest business book of all time, based on a study of 43 of America's best-run companies, it describes 8 basic principles of management which together generate action-stimulating, people-orientated and profit-maximizing practices for any business. In this clip, Tom reinforces his belief that a strategy for excellence is as important now and in the next few minutes as it is as part of a longer-term business plan.
My new book is called The Excellence Dividend, but there was another competing set of words that almost won out. And that set of words is excellence is the next 5 minutes. This is a huge point, even though it's rather easy to state. You think about excellence and you think about, wow, this is something that maybe could happen over the space of 10 years or 20 years if a lot of things go right. But I don't want you to think about that way. Never again think about it that way, starting with watching this. Excellence is not a long-term aspiration. Excellence, in fact, is the ultimate short-term strategy. Excellence is the next 5 minutes or it's nothing at all. Excellence is the quality of your next conversation. You pop out of a meeting and you talk to somebody. Is that an enlightening conversation? Does it make them excited? It's your next conversation or not. Excellence is your next meeting or not. Say meeting, and the words that come out of most people's mouths is pain in the ass. Well, every meeting is an excellence opportunity. Excellence is shutting up and really, really, really listening hard the next time you're in the middle of a conversation. Excellence is your next customer contact. Not some big deal meeting, but just a thank you note or something that you dash off to a customer. Excellence is saying thank you for something small, just a little touch or not. Excellence is the next time you shoulder the responsibility and apologize for even a teeny screw up. And now listen to my last point. Excellence is your next email or not. If one thing drives me crazy with senior people or junior people, it's crappy emails where the grammar is not right, where the language is not clear. All of leadership is show business, and part of your show business is the next instant message or the next email. This all is a huge point. There is no tomorrow. Maybe I'm sounding like a Zen Buddhist or something. There is no tomorrow. All you've got as a leader, or for that matter, non-leader, is the next 5 minutes. Next conversation, next meeting, next email, you name it. Excellence is the next 5 minutes or it's nothing.
Now for my quick business tip for this episode. Here's some advice from Dan Pink, who suggests how you can motivate yourself when you don't feel like exercising.
Hi everyone, welcome to another Pinkcast. You know, exercise is one of the few things in life that is unequivocally good for us. It can prevent disease. It can help us control our weight. It can improve our metabolic health. It can boost our mood. Trouble is, we don't always feel like exercising. So what can you do when your get up and go has got up and went? Well, science has the answer, and it's in the work of Michelle Seeger at the University of Michigan. Her research has found that one of the keys is to reframe exercise, to stop thinking of it as a chore and start thinking of it as a gift. In particular, one technique for doing that is really interesting. Instead of saying to yourself, I have to exercise, say to yourself, I get to exercise. Here's why this is effective. We know from a ton of research that the best way to sustain behavior is if you have autonomy and draw on intrinsic motivation, rather than being controlled and having to rely on extrinsic motivators. Saying I have to imposes a measure of external control. When you have to do something, you don't have autonomy. Saying I get to means it's your choice. You can draw on your own values, your own desires, your own wishes. So, the next time you're feeling unmotivated to hit the gym or unmotivated to go out for a long run in the driving snow, use this simple and effective linguistic trick. Now, I get to go for a run. Thanks for watching the Pinkcast.
So what's my tip? Well, it's this, and it's even more simple than following Dan Pink's suggestion. Get yourself an energetic dog and make sure it takes you for a brisk 20-minute walk at least twice a day, every day. Well, that's about it for now. I'm John Sheridan, and this has been another video show from Veterinary Business. See you next time.